Hello, welcome to Passnownow WAEC preparatory class, and this is English language session. So for today, we will be examining comprehension passage and the summary section. So we'll start with the comprehension. In the WAEC examination, you'll be given a comprehension passage to read and answer questions on. Some questions will be asked to assess your understanding of the passage read. Other questions will be asked about the grammatical name and function. Another question could be asked about figure of speech. And finally, you'll be asked to look for synonyms of some words and replace them as used in the sentence. And finally, you'll be asked to find the synonyms of some words. So we'll be starting with the first comprehension passage, 2007. Comprehension 1. Mr. Sisi pulled on his trousers very hurriedly and dragged himself to the veranda. He was bent on getting to the office before his workers. The previous day, he had reprimanded his staff for regularly coming to work late and threatened to give the sack to any of them who would repeat the offense. Today, he must get to work in time, not only to serve as a role model, but also to show that he really meant what he had said. He managed to squeeze himself behind the wheel of his car, which was at least 2 sizes too small to accommodate his pound. He inserted the ignition key and turned it, but the car would not start. The engine just grumbled. On the second attempt, it coughed and finally roused to life on the third. It moved grudgingly to the gate and stopped. Sisi immediately realized that he would be caught in a traffic jam. It was evident that he would arrive his workplace late. For about 2 hours, Sisi just sat, glued to his seat, fuming. Hard as he tried to control his temper, the misbehavior of other drivers once prompted him to bawl at them. Then suddenly, after the interminable wait, the street cleared and Sisi sped off. It was almost 3 hours after leaving home that he got to his workplace. The staff were already there, and when he entered the building, he found the secretary and the clerical staff apparently immersed in their assignments with an air of dutifulness. One look at their boss warned them that they had better keep quiet to save their skin. But as soon as he closed the door to his office, he heard soft voices mumbling words he could not understand. Worst of all, he heard subdued laughter from his secretary. Sisi immediately shot out of his chair, ready to vent his spleen on these underlings, but suddenly plopped back into his seat. On second thoughts, he changed his mind. How could he castigate them for what they had not caused? So that's the comprehension passage. So question number 1. Why was Mr. Sisi in a hurry to get to his office? Why was Mr. Sisi in a hurry to get to his office? Remember that you have to get your answer from the comprehension passage. And what's the answer? Mr. Sisi was in a hurry to get to his office because he needed to serve as a role model of punctuality to his workers, as well as show them that he really meant what he said when he threatened to sack anyone who comes late to work again. So that's the answer. You get your answer from the comprehension passage. Now, when you are answering comprehension questions in WAEC, don't just give us a one-line answer. Make sure your answer is comprehensible and understandable. If you like, you can use a preamble. Do you understand? Question number 2. What 2 indications are there in the passage that Mr. Sisi was a huge man? Now, we get our answer from the passage. The first indication is that he has a punch. And the second one is that he had to squeeze himself behind the car wheel to be able to sit. These two things indicated to us that he was a huge man. Number 3, how did Mr. CC express his anger while caught in the traffic? Now, like I said earlier, when you want to answer questions in the comprehension passage, don't just state your answer like that. Give us an introduction. Now, for this question, the answer is that he bowed at other drivers. But I wouldn't just say he bowed at other drivers. I would say Mr. CC expressed his anger while caught in the traffic by bowing at other drivers' misbehavior. Do you understand? So that's the answer. Mr. CC expressed his anger while caught in the traffic by bowling at other drivers' misbehavior. Do you understand that? Number 4, why did Mr. CC become angry with his staff? Now, I wouldn't just say because the staff were murmuring about him. No, I wouldn't start my answer with because. I would rather start it this way. Mr. CC became angry with his staff because they were murmuring about him and because he had subdued laughter from his secretary. Do you understand? That makes the answer clearer. Number 5, what was the attitude of the staff towards their boss? Now, for this question, the answer was not explicitly stated in the passage. However, you can induce, right? So, we would see that the attitude of the staff towards their boss was that of fear. They had an attitude of fear towards their boss. Do you understand? Now, that's all for questions that are asked to assess your understanding of the passage. The other questions will be asked to check your understanding of grammatical names and function, figure of speech, and synonyms. So, let's go. Number 6. When he entered the building. This is a statement taken out from the passage. When he entered the building. Now, question 1. What grammatical name is given to this expression as it is used in the passage? When he entered the building. One, what grammatical name is given to this expression as it is used in the passage? Grammatical name. Number 2, what is its function? Function. If you look at this expression, when he entered the building, it's advisable that when you want to answer this question, you should go back to the comprehension passage. Look at sentences or words accompanying this statement or coming after it to be able to get the correct answer. Now, when he entered the building. When he entered the building. Telling us the time of an action, right? telling us the time an action took place. So it's an adverbial something, right? Adverbial. So adverbial. Now, is it a phrase or a clause? Is it a phrase? Is it an adverbial phrase or an adverbial clause? How do you determine that? What is a phrase? A phrase is a group of words without a finite verb, while a clause is a group of words with a subject and a finite verb. And in this statement, we see that there's a subject, E, and there's also what? A finite verb, entered. So we can deduce that it is an adverbial clause. It is a clause. Now, we're not just stopping there. We'd also realize that it's an adverbial clause of time, right? Telling us about the time he entered the building, when he entered the building. Adverbial clause of time. There are different types of grammatical names. We have the adverbial clause of time, we have adverbial phrase, we have noun phrase, we have adjectival phrase, adjectival clause, and so on. So the statements given will determine what your answer would be. Do you understand? But for this statement, it's an adverbial clause of time. And what is its function? Like I said, when you want to determine the answer to this question, you are advised to go back to the comprehension passage. Now, let's go back to the comprehension passage. It's in the second to last paragraph. I read, "The staff were already there, and when he entered the building, he found the secretary and clerical staff apparently immersed in their assignment with an air of dutifulness." Now, we can say that what happened when he entered the building? He found his secretary. So the verb found. Now, remember that an adverb does what? Modifies a verb, right? An adjective, another adverbs. So in this situation, this adverbial clause of time is modifying the verb found, which comes after the statement, telling us what happened when he entered the building. When he entered the building, he found his secretary, right? So found. So the function of this statement is that it modifies the verb. The verb found. Do you understand? Now, question 7. How could he castigate them for what they had not caused? Another expression. How could he castigate them for what they had not caused? Now, the question is, what literary device is used in the expression above? Now, the answer to this question is that it's a rhetorical question. What's a rhetorical question? It's a question that is directed at no one in particular and that requires no answer. You know, in the passage, he made a statement, how could he castigate them for what they had not caused? The question was directed at no one and it required no answer. So it's a rhetorical question. I hope you understand. Our next question is question 8. The question says, what is meant by the expression vent is plain in the last paragraph? Vent is plain. Vent is plain. And like I said earlier, you are still going to refer back to the passage and how it is used in the passage. So when we go back to our passage, the last paragraph, let's check that. Now, the last paragraph, I read, CC immediately shot out of his chair, ready to vent his spleen on these underlings, but sturdily plopped back into his seat. From this statement, we can easily deduce what this expression means. Vent his spleen. It means to show his anger or express his anger. You can see that I didn't just write to show his anger, right? I said vent his spleen means to show his anger. So you give a complete statement for you to get the full mark. Even if you have the right answer, you still need to express it in a complete sentence for you to get awarded the full marks. Do you understand? And number 9, for each of the following words, find another word or phrase which means the same and which can replace it as it is used in the passage. I, reprimanded. Evident. Prompted. Interminable. Immersed. And we have subdued. Now, for this question, you have to look for another word or phrase that means the same thing as the words listed and which can replace them as they are used in the passage. This means that if a word is picked out and the word is in the past tense, the new word that will replace it, that you'll be picking to replace it, must also be in the past tense, because that is how it will be able to replace it in the passage. Do you understand? If a word is in the past tense, reprimanded, and you are picking a new word, that new word must also be in the past tense in order to fit the passage. Do you understand? Now, reprimanded, you also go back to the passage to look at where it was used and how it was used there. Reprimanded, so this is in the first paragraph. He had reprimanded his staff for regularly coming to work late. So another word that can be used in place of this is rebuked. Rebuked. Or scolded. But you are asked to look for one word, right, or phrase. So you have to pick just one answer. I'm only giving you options. So just one word or phrase. So rebuked. I didn't write rebuke. Why? We have reprimanded, not reprimand. So our answer also has to be in the same tense, because that is how we will be able to replace it as used in the passage. Do you understand? Now we have evidence. And that word for this is obvious. Obvious. If this word was evidently, would have had obviously. Do you understand? Prompted. Led. As used in the passage, we have had as he tried to control his temper, the misbehavior of other drivers once prompted him to bowl at them. So we can say the misbehavior of other drivers once led him to bowl at them, and it's still correct. Then suddenly, after the interminable wait, the streets cleared and Sisi sped off. Interminable here, we can use unending, endless, long. Any of these words can be used to replace interminable in the statement. We can say after the unending wait, after the endless wait, after the long wait, and to still be correct. Immersed. We have it in the passage. It says he found the secretary and the clerical staff apparently immersed in their assignment. We can say engaged, right? They were apparently engaged. And lastly, subdued. From the passage, worst of all, he had subdued laughter from his secretary. We can say stifled or mumbled. Do you understand? So that's all for comprehension. Now we'll go to summary. Now we are going to summary. What is summary? Summary writing has to do with giving a short answer on a piece of writing in your own words. Now, in answering the summary questions in WAEC, you will be required to read a passage and give your answers in a summary, usually in one statement. for 1 point. So in doing this, there are some rules to guide you when answering the summary questions in your SSC. Number 1, read the passage and understand it well before attempting to answer the questions. You are to read the passage first, the summary passage first, before you start answering the question. Number 2, write in short sentences. Make it brief but relevant to the question asked. Your answers should be brief, but must be relevant to the question you are answering. And that rule is, let your answer be straight to the point. They don't want any rambling or whatever. Just give us the answer straight to the point in a short format. Another rule, write in your own words. Do not copy from the given passage. Some will also test your ability to understand and express the answer in your own words. So don't copy verbatim from the passage read. Another rule, do not write more or less than the number of sentences asked. Write the exact number of sentences you are asked to. If you are asked to write 2 sentences, make sure you write 2 sentences. If it's 3, write 3. Don't write less than or more than. Another rule, don't write 2 scoring points in 1 sentence. If you are asked to write 2 points, write them in 2 separate sentences. Because if you express 2 points in 1 sentence, you will be given half mark. You will be scored for only 1 point. So you express 2 points in 2 separate sentences if you are asked to. But if you are asked to express 2 points in 1 sentence, then you do that. One fast rule to acing the summary section in English language and WAEC is to follow instructions. And finally, use good grammar. Don't make spelling or grammatical error. Now we'll be taking a summary passage from one of the past questions. Now we'll be taking a summary passage from 2015. I read, every normal human being would want to put his or her feet up once in a while and relax. But obviously, one cannot relax all the time. A little work does not kill. Rather, it keeps one active and mentally alert. Some people think that the invention of robots is the best thing that ever happened to man. They are convinced that the invention has saved the day because robots are ideal workers who work without complaining or getting tired. Robots never reveal company secrets for any reason, whether corruption, fame, or blackmail. The admirers of robots think that once a robot is programmed, it can do any piece of work with precision over a long period without slowing down, getting bored, or even going on break, or even vacation. Robots can be made to perform any task. They do not grumble, protest, or ask for inducement allowance, overtime, bonus, or any of the motivations that human beings usually demand. They also work under conditions which human beings would not accept due to either incapacity or attitude. One good thing about the robot is that any of its damaged parts can be replaced for work to go on effectively. On the other hand, if a human being loses a vital part of the body, that part may not be replaced for work to go on as effectively as before. There is no doubt at all that the robot is useful, but I strongly believe that the human being is more efficient than the robot in many ways. Human beings are sensitive, thinking beings who are flexible and can therefore control their actions. Thus, they can perform more functions than robots since human beings can think, discriminate, and make value judgment. They can solve problems on the spur of the moment. The robot, on the other hand, cannot do this because what it has been programmed for is all it is capable of doing. If a robot is wrongly programmed, it will continue to produce the wrong results until its program is corrected. The human being can take the initiative in many things. It can communicate or even call for assistance when need be, which the robot cannot do. The human being can be appealed to, make some crucial changes. It can also learn from observing what goes on and modify what it's doing. It is clear that even though robots are useful, they are deficient in many ways and therefore cannot have an advantage over human beings. In crisis, the robot cannot face the challenge. It neither reacts nor reflects. The robot is designed and programmed by human beings. How then can the created be superior to the creator? Robots are created to assist human beings and relieve them of some of their burdens, not to take over completely from them. So that's it. Now question 1. In 3 sentences, 1 for each, state why the admirers of robots think that robots are more efficient than human beings. In 3 sentences. So we are writing 3 sentences, 1 for each. 1 for each point. State why the admirers of robots think that robots are more efficient than human beings. It's a summary question. So our answers will be short. Number 1, robots can work for long without getting tired. Note that I didn't say the reason why admirers of robots think that robots are more efficient than human beings is because robots can work for long without getting tired. No, right? It's a summary, so just give us the answer. And even with that, your answer should still be a complete statement, right? Robots can work for long without getting tired. It's still a complete statement. Number 2, another point. This is the first sentence. The second point, robots don't make demands for incentives like human beings. Robots don't make demands. Like human beings or for incentive, anyone. Robots don't make demands like human beings. And number 3, another point, robots can work under any condition. Robots can work under any condition. The question is in 3 sentences, 1 for each. So we have 3 sentences, 1 to 3. I didn't lump 2 points into 1 sentence. Right? I didn't say robots don't make demands like human beings and they can work under any condition. That will be one sentence and to be carrying 2 points. And that will score me half mark. Do you understand? So in 3 sentences, 1 for each, you make it 3 sentences and you express 1 point in each of the sentences. Do you understand? Number 2 question. In 3 sentences, 1 for each, state 3 advantages which the human being has over the robot. 3 sentences again, 1 for each. Point number 1, human beings can think and make adjustments in their work. Number 2, under point, human beings can control their actions while working. And point number 3, human beings can perform more functions than a robot can. Your answer should be straight to the point. No grammatical error, no spelling error. So that's all for the comprehension and summary section of the WAEC preparatory class. See you next time, guys.